Hi, I'm John. Today we're going to talk about the three types of buyers for your business. One is the key employee or employees. Two is an outside third-party individual. And three is an outside company. Now, when you're selling to a key employee, the first thing you need to remember is that they may know your business, but you're going to be disclosing things to them that they may not necessarily know. So you want to ensure that they sign a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement, meaning that they won't disclose any of the information to anybody other than their advisors and their spouse. Now, the benefit of selling to an employee or employees is they know your business, they see the value of your business, and you don't need to prove it to them like you would an outside third party. The challenge you have when you sell to employees is that the employees tend not to have the down payment that's needed to buy your business. The bigger your business is, the more of a challenge it is for the employees. Sometimes employees can withdraw the money from their 401k, and there's a process for that, and we'll talk about that in a future video called the ROBS. After your initial conversation with your key employee or employees, your second conversation needs to be with their spouses if they're married. I don't care how great that conversation is, how perfect everybody thinks it's going, until the spouse is involved and the spouse approves it, you don't have any deal, and you need to be aware of that. The second is if you're selling to an outside third-party individual, they typically are coming to a situation, they've thought more about it and they processed it more than when you approach your employees. They'll have similar challenges, but because they've thought about the process and they've initiated it, they're better prepared for this process. You're going to need to prove to them the value of your business, and that goes back to the paperwork and the documentation that we talked about in the prior video. The third type of buyer is a company. Companies tend to buy businesses because either they're looking for their employees, they're looking to add new skills or services, or they're looking to geographically expand. Some companies have experience are repetitive buyers of smaller businesses. Sometimes it's a company dipping their toe into the process. Either way, a company is going to be a more sophisticated buyer, and they're going to ask more detailed questions and look at things more analytically than individuals typically are. Key thing is, it doesn't matter how much money that company has, they're not going to write you a check at the closing for the full amount. Typically, you're going to have an employment agreement, and they will require you to hold paper, which is taking back a loan, that will be paid over the time of the employment agreement.